T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Kush's Korner on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. Today is a very special episode, one that I frankly wanted to do since before I started this podcast. I'm joined by Jacoby of Jacoby Serpent Propagation, and today it's all about pine snakes, some of my favorite snakes in the entire world. And if there is a guy for pine snakes, it is Jay. So very, very excited to get into all of this. But of course, before we get started, as always, USARK. So USARK is the organization that is fighting for our rights to keep our reptiles, to run our reptile businesses, and to live this lifestyle. Check out USARK.org for all of the information you need to know about the organization. USARK.org is also where you can find alerts on new legislation introduced at either the national level or at local levels, as well as updates on progress on any pieces of legislation. USARK.org is also where you can become a member of the organization. As a community, we have strength in numbers, and the more people that are behind the cause, the better. Before we get into this conversation with Jay, here's a quick word from some of our sponsors.
Sorry for the interruption, folks, but a quick word from our sponsors. Green tree pythons, emerald tree boas, and plenty other arboreal snakes have been quite the popularity here at the Trap Talk Reptile Network, which brings me to today's sponsor, the Reptile Perch. Head over to the reptileperch.com and Reptile Perch on Instagram. See what type of design PVC perch is best for your arboreal reptile. But first and foremost, I would also check out David Brom's Green Tree Python availability on the website. And you can also check out his Instagram just to stay current on any projects or any productions that he posts. Thank you so much, David Broms, for your ongoing support. Looking forward to seeing what you have to show in the 2025 season. When you think about building a good community and being a leader of that community, nobody comes to mind better than Mark Hager over at Texas Chondros. That's right. Make sure you head over to TX Chondros on Instagram and also head over to Mark's website. See what he has available Green Tree Python wise, and be ready for quite the 2025 Green Tree Python breeding season out of Mark Hager. He's a veteran in the Green Tree Python game, one of the best and nicest breeders in the Green Tree Python game. He's been putting on the whole state of Texas for as long as I've known him. So if you want to see all the amazing other chondro keepers out of the state of Texas, another good reason to go follow Mark Hager over at TX Chondros on Instagram. And again, head over to his website, texaschondros.com. You can find all the links in the description below. Thank you so much, Mark Hager, for supporting the trap. Cheers. One of the biggest growths we have in the reptile industry today are the rare species of reptiles that aren't worked with. That's right. That's why I went ahead and partnered up again with Brian Susan over at Sundown Reptiles. Brian works with species such as kahua geckos, gargoyle geckos, all species of tree monitors. He works with Abronia and many other cool species geckos that you can check out all on his website. Head over to sundownreptiles.com, see what he has available. Brian's one of the best doing it in the reptile industry today. He's been on the show multiple times, so make sure you check out all of Brian Susan's episodes on Trap Talk Reptile Network. But more importantly, for the highest quality of captive bred reptiles, make sure you head over to sundownreptiles.com and make sure you give him a follow on Instagram. Thank you again, Brian Susan over at Sundown Reptiles. One of the things I love about being a part of the reptile industry is all the learning, okay? Learning can be fun, and I can prove that to you. Thank you so much to today's sponsor, it's Gary Scavino over at GS Reptiles. I highly recommend you head over to his YouTube channel, follow all this man's content when it comes to learning about rare species of snakes you could be keeping in the hobby, and also just finding out how easy a lot of these rare species of snakes are to keep in general. So thank you so much, Gary Scavino of GS Reptiles. Again, head over to his YouTube channel. Also head over to his Instagram to be on top of all of his current work and be ready for a big year over at GS Reptiles. Thank you so much, Gary, for your ongoing support. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
All right, everybody. Shout out once again to all the sponsors here on the channel. If you are here on YouTube, first of all, thank you very much. Please subscribe here to the Trap Talk Reptile Network. A new podcast drops every single day of the week from some of the best hosts in the game, talking about a wide variety of topics from within the reptile industry. So if you are a reptile podcast fan, you have come to the right place. We are also on all of the audio streaming platforms, be that Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast from. You can find the Trap Talk Reptile Network. A follow, 5-star review would be most appreciated on all of those platforms. With all that housekeeping out of the way, it's time to bring Jay onto the show. What's going on, Jay? Thanks for being with me today.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And like I said in the introduction, you're really somebody who I've wanted to talk to for a long time. You know, Pituophis are one of my favorite genus of snakes, and pine snakes in particular. And I've really admired your work for a very long time. So I'm excited to get to talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I guess for anybody who may not already be familiar with you and your work, kind of give us a little bit of a rundown on your life and times in herpetoculture and kind of what's all brought you to where you are today.
That's good. I started out as most, I would say most reptile people start out as a young kid, fascinated by the things that swim and crawl, things they find in the creek behind their house. And I have to thank my mom for this. When I was a boy, I was allowed to keep frogs. I was allowed to keep turtles. I was allowed to keep toads. Was not allowed to keep snakes. So I think that kind of instilled that there's something really cool about snakes. Is something that I'm not supposed to do.
Yeah.
So it invested me even that much more that, you know, what's hiding behind the curtain? Why aren't I allowed to keep these? Just turns out my mom didn't want them getting loose in the house. I guess a turtle getting loose, you could find it in the corner, but I don't think we'd find a loose snake. So it just kind of invested my interest into more, you know, getting more into snakes and what they're all about. When I was young, I grew up near Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, and there was a huge aquarium store. And this was like the first of its kind back in this, I think it started in the 60s, but the 70s and 80s, it was called Martin's Aquarium, and famous place.
Yeah.
Brian Christie wrote a book about, you know, what it included Martin's Aquarium in this book. So he grew up in the area. I would be dropped off there by my mom, and I could just stay all day.
Yeah.
And I just immersed myself in aquarium fish, and they actually had a reptile department. And back then it was a little bit dangerous to go back there, because the people that were running the reptile department also did some illegal dealings on the side. So
yep, it was always hand in hand back in those days in this industry, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, I was 10, so I wasn't really
right,
you know, up to speed on what's really going on. But
just a lot of calcium powder.
I'd be able to go back and look. I mean, to see an Amazon tree boa, to see an emerald, to see, like, they didn't just have boa constrictors, they had Guyanas and they had Surinams and they had everything. And I'm just like, please just leave me here all day long. So that kind of was, you know, the foothold of how this all began. The fascination just grew from there. And later in life, I was really immersed in carpet pythons. And I saw one of your sponsors is Gary, GS Reptiles.
Yeah.
Gary used to come to my shop. I had a reptile shop back in the 80s and early 90s. And Gary walked in one day and we became friends, and it's all about chondros and all about carpet pythons. And so that was really the first thing I got introduced to as far as like keeping, raising, and breeding. And I bred a lot of different carpet pythons back in the day. But there was a photo site called Flickr. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I was searching on Flickr, and I came upon this picture of, it was mislabeled. It said it was a leucistic black pine. there are no leucistic black pines, but there are
Mhm.
leucistic Florida pines.
Yeah.
And the picture, it was like the shot of its head, and it was eating a mouse. And from the angle, just the shape of its head, and it was pearl white. And my only thought was, how freaking cool would that snake be 6.5 feet? A pearl white, blue-eyed leucistic pine snake. Yeah. And I made a couple of phone calls, and I had a friend that actually had one, and he wanted a baby carpet python.
Mm.
I traded him a baby carpet python for the leucistic Florida pine, and that snowballed into everything that I'm doing today. Just owning that one snake set the tone for the next 15 years.
Wow. That's, I feel like I've had a moment like that in my reptile career. And, it's so amazing when you can find that thing that really grabs your attention. Because like you said, going to Martin's aquarium, when you're so young and you're so overwhelmed by all of the different options that are around you, it's like, what the hell do I even do? But then that one moment where it really all clicks, it's like, wow, doesn't get much more special than that.
Yep. And I don't know, I enjoyed the carpets, but not on the same level. Like they just didn't have the vibe. They didn't have the personality. They didn't have the interaction that, and you can hold a snake, but it's not the same when you feel like you're connected to that snake. And that's what the pine snakes just instantly clicked with me. And it just became like, wow, these are neat. And like, oh my God, wait, there's Louisiana pines, there's Mexican pines, there's all these different pine snakes. Yeah. So it just became like, I need to know more about these, and I want to just get involved with this species. But the crazy thing is, gopher snakes mean nothing to me. Bull snakes, I'm kind of a little bit into bull snakes, but the pines, it just like, it seemed like there was like a little hierarchy, and they were the upper echelon. They were like elegant. They were, exquisite. They weren't pooping all over the cage like the bull snake. So it just hit a home run with me.
Yeah. Okay. That was going to be one of my questions, because thinking about this episode, I'm like, I'm not sure if I've ever seen Jay post a bull snake or a gopher snake. Is it all pine snakes?
Well, it's funny. I made a post on Facebook a couple days ago saying I don't normally post bull snakes because I only have 3. But
okay.
Here's one of the 3. And I only have 3 because I bought a female to go with a male that I have. It's my son Jesse's snake. And it's this yellow patternless bull that's just spectacular. It's like 6.5, 7 feet. Wow. And when he was little, he would hold it, and it would look like he was holding a 10-foot, retic.
Yeah.
But so I bought a female to breed it, and 3 years later, I put them together, and they start wrestling and fighting, and it turns out it's a male. So now I'm stuck with a male bull snake that I didn't really want. So now I had to get a female for that bull. So now the snowballing is happening again. But I only have 3.
And no gophers.
No gophers.
Okay. I kind of saw that one coming. So was that a trial by fire kind of thing where you tried some gophers and some bulls and were like, that's not really for me? Or were you just laser focused on pines from the jump, considering that leucistic Florida was your introduction?
I had some Baja bull snakes, the vertebralis, and I had some Lunaticolus, the line pine. But just for whatever reason, the North American stuff, just because it's thicker bodied, it's more of a snake. It's, to see a 7-foot northern, nothing really compares to that for me.
Yeah.
The bulls, bulls and gophers get big, but there's a difference for me. There's just something about the pines. The shape of their head is different. Their body structure is a little different. So, I found what I like. I didn't want to venture any further into that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I feel like, especially once as a keeper, you kind of get a little bit further into your career, specializing really takes everything to the next level, as far as what you're able to actually accomplish with that project. And also, if you want to look at it from a business standpoint as well, you know, I bet for you being known as the pine snake guy has gone a long way in your success within what you're doing.
I know, and I kind of feel guilty because I'm sitting in my snake room right now, and I'm looking at an albino king rat, and then over here there's a Mexican indigo, and I'm like, I hope that this doesn't, shine a bad light that I'm venturing into some different species, but it kind of things just kind of fell into place, and I have a few other species, but
Sure thing.
The majority of the collection, the focus of the collection is North American pines.
Sure. So I guess 2 questions about the collection. I'll start with the others first. So what else are you keeping that's not in your North American pine classification?
There's a local Pennsylvanian named Jim Murley who used to go to the reptile shows back in the 90s. He actually field collected his own Okatee corn snakes from the Okatee Hunt Club.
Wow.
I still have some of his offspring from, I've been breeding them for the last 20 years.
Okay,
so
that's
I have actual Hunt Club Okatee corns. Let me look around. I have 6 different king rat snakes, the Carinata from China, and a group of Drymarchon. I have Texas indigos, Mexican indigos, and black-tailed Crebos.
Okay.
But other than that, everything else is a pine snake, except for the 3 bulls. Can't forget the 3 bulls.
Yeah. So then I guess the one that I'm primarily interested in, the pine snake collection. At this point, within the kind of distinctions that you're working with, is there anything that you don't have within like the North American pines?
No, well, I've had them all. Well,
okay.
There's like some Santa Cruz Pituophis, West Coast stuff, but everything that I like is East Coast or like, Louisiana.
Okay.
But I've had basically every species: Florida pine, northern pine, Louisiana pine.
Yeah.
And then variations of them: Burlington County, Ocean County, and leucistic Floridas, albino Floridas, snow Floridas. So it's gotten the collection has grown as I produce stuff, and was like, wow, look at this, let's hold this one back, and then 3 years later we're breeding it and I create something new. But it wasn't really about the morphs. But to me, a white and red albino Florida pine, that's as pretty as like any morph of any snake you could ever want.
Yeah. So. It's, I feel like I'm a locality guy at heart, but seeing some of the morphs, I have some morph pits as well, but I'm like you just said, like, this is just, it's absolutely spectacular. And, they keep getting better and better as they age, which isn't the case with a lot of species with their morphs. So I can understand how that rabbit hole is really easy to fall right down.
Yes.
Very cool. So, one thing that I really like about seeing your posts or your enclosures, I feel like a lot of people who have, and, for better or worse, who are colubrid breeders are, exclusively in racks. What are the dimensions of your adult enclosures, and why did you decide to go cages over racks?
Well, I've never used racks. To me, the thought of keeping a snake in an opaque drawer where they can't really see you or interact, it didn't make sense. So the caging started like small. I just decided I'm going to build some cages, and it turned out like I liked the design. So the cages I have were based on the boards that were available at the hardware store. So 36 or 48.
Yeah.
So my biggest pine snake cages are 48 inches. And I built them varying sizes for yearlings and subadults and then adults. So I have some that are 30 inches, 36 inches, and up to 48.
Okay.
And I just like everything you can see behind me, glass windows, everything has an LED light. I get pieces of wood so that they can, climb or tunnel or hide.
Yeah.
The thought of sticking them in a drawer just turned me off. I'm not going to knock the breeders that do that, but I didn't start out to become a breeder. I started out to become a hobbyist and a collector, and someone that I wanted to display my animals so that I could see them when I walked in the room. I didn't want to open a drawer and have something lunging out at me thinking that it's dinner time. So everything I built has glass windows, LED lights, naturally sourced wood from the forest around me. I've even gone to like Jersey into the Pine Barrens and found pieces of wood. And I'm like, let's throw this in there. Pine needles, let's do that. It just makes it a little bit more naturalistic, and it just feels more real to me. It's because I never intended to become a pine snake breeder. I just wanted to display them and enjoy them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I agree with that sentiment, especially the opaque drawers. I've never been a fan of them. I always prefer the ones that have like windows on the front or something that make it a little bit, less confined, I guess, primarily for like a diurnal species as well. I feel like you can make the argument, even though I would probably argue against it, for like a ball python or something like that.
Exactly.
But for a coluber that's active during the day, that just seems like the exact opposite of what you should be doing with that animal. Like you couldn't do anything worse as far as their ability to access light and whatnot and visual stimulus.
Yeah. Well, I worked at a lab for a while doing mouse genetics.
Okay.
And the drawers reminded me of all the mouse caging, and the mindset was just wrong. So I just wanted to have cages that I felt that the snakes were happy, and it wasn't about me having ease of cleaning or compact space. I wanted them to have room. I built my own cages that have a hide box on the side with a separate drawer so they can climb into a dark hide area if they want and come out onto the other side.
Okay.
And it just worked. So that's the model of the cage I designed. I just love it. And I put on my Facebook page, I put the dimensions and step-by-step instructions. So someone at home could just go to Lowe's or Home Depot, buy the same exact equipment. And for a fraction of the price of like a PVC cage, you could build a 3-stack or a 6-stack of cages, and they're perfect for pine snakes.
That's so cool. So then I figured that
if you screw a branch in it, it's perfect for a carpet python.
True. So I figured that section behind you where it's the solid, that's like the access to the hide box from your vantage point, right there.
Here, yeah. These are hide boxes, and then the rest of the cage is like a glass window like this.
Cool. And does that hide box double as your nesting box as well?
No.
Okay.
I'll take. Let me grab one. I'll show you.
All right, let's do it. Awaiting the nest box. Okay.
Take a plastic Tupperware or Sterilite bin, fill that with sphagnum moss, cut a big hole in it. That's my hide box. Sometimes I'll paint them black to give the snake more privacy.
Yeah.
But I don't use the cage itself because this way I can remove this and have better access to the eggs with the female curled up in the box. That way I'm not messing with an angry female snake who's going, "Hey, why are you in here taking my eggs?"
Yeah, that makes sense. So then do you introduce that box once they're gravid then?
Once they're going into their pre-lay shed,
okay.
And you can pick up a pine snake and you can tell it looks like a little fire hose. It's loaded with eggs. Right before their eyes are turning blue, I introduce the next nest box. I'll poke their head in it, but I've had snakes here that have had, 6 clutches of eggs over the past 10 years. They instinctively know to go right in there. You don't even have to introduce them or show them like, "Hey, this is where you go."
Yeah,
they'll just climb right in. They feel the moist sphagnum moss. It's like a nesting material.
Yeah,
right in and lay their eggs.
Perfect. Very cool. So then in your enclosures, are you providing any supplemental heat, or are you kind of running the room at an ambient temperature straight?
The room itself, I have glass doors. So this is like a sealed environment. And I have a small oil-filled radiator heater that keeps the room at a base temperature of about 70 to 72.
Okay.
And then with the LED lights, the cages themselves will get up to about 76, 77. If they get above 80, I click the lights off. Pine snakes really do not like temperatures above 80 degrees. So each room that I have is just heated with the oil-filled heaters, the little radiant heaters, and then the cage lights bring it up to exactly where it should be.
Okay. Perfect. And do you see just like agitated behavior over 80 degrees? What are some of the issues that you run into if you get too
if
hot?
I'm down here and I have to take my shirt off, it's too hot.
Sure.
So no, I just know I have thermometers everywhere and been doing this so long that if it gets 80, 81, 82, they will start moving around. But I'll just come in and click the lights off, open the doors up, put a fan. This is in my basement, so it's the coolest part of the house.
Sure.
I don't think I could have this many animals on a first floor because in Pennsylvania in the summer it's 90 degrees. So
yeah.
The basement has been turned into the reptile world.
Absolutely. Very cool. And then I figure that's just the same straight through every life stage. You're doing the husbandry pretty much the same way.
Yeah, just the only difference between raising a juvenile or a hatchling up is I'll feed the baby snakes more frequently. I'll feed them every 3 to 4 days, whereas the adults once a week. But I use newspaper for substrate. I just found with the pines, it's less problematic than having aspen or any kind of cypress mulch. And so the babies up to the adults are all just kept on newspaper, big pieces of wood in their cage, water bowl, hiding area. And that's a miniature version is what I keep the hatchlings in.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. That was going to be my next question, was about feeding. So thank you for reading my mind. So I have some questions about some particular projects that you have that I just am absolutely in love with. The first one, or the animals that I have that you did produce, are the red northerns. So what's the story on that lineage? They're just so amazingly beautiful.
Well, you're gonna laugh at this one. It all started with, I have this really old northern pine named Lumpy.
Okay.
If anybody's looked over my Facebook page, they've seen pictures of Lumpy. We don't know how old she is. She was given to me by my friend Scott Pryor. He hatched the snake out probably 25 years ago, gave it away to a friend. This was this big beast of a beautiful red female. When it came back from the friend, its jaw's crooked, its head's all messed up. Like, we don't know what happened to it, and we never got an answer as to like what happened to Lumpy, but that's how she got her name. But she is this magnificently red female. And I raised up one of her offspring, an unrelated breeding, and I ended up with a red male. And then I got a red male from the same lineage from a friend. So I ended up with 2 red males, 1 red female. And that started the original project. And then through word of mouth, somebody contacted me and said, hey, I have a really crazy red female northern. It's completely black down its head and neck. You should mix this in with your project. So I bought that snake. And that kind of snowballed into, now I have a lot of red northern vines. And these are the ones, the reason I wanted to do it, back in the 90s, you could go to the reptile shows around Pennsylvania, Jersey. Like I'm near Philadelphia. So people would come to the Hamburg show from like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. The whole East Coast would come to the Hamburg reptile show back in the 90s. And you would see these brick red northern pines that were just like, wow, but nobody liked them because they wanted black and white ones. And like the red ones were like, why would you want this muddy, ugly red snake when there's these crisp black and white ones? So they kind of fell to the side, like they disappeared. And then like everything else, people were like, hey, whatever happened to those red northern pines?
Yeah.
I used to see them back at the shows. And it's just nobody wanted them. But now that nobody wanted them, they're back in favor. But I think I fine-tuned it to create like a rose petal pink black pine instead of a muddy, dirty, kind of off red black pine. So through some selective breeding, I've come up with some really pretty red babies.
Okay, so the ones that you were seeing back in the day were kind of like, they mildly resembled what you're producing now, essentially. You weren't getting ones that are that nice red back in the days.
Well, it's hard to remember back then. Like,
Fair
but
enough.
in my mind, mine are so much prettier because they're mine. But those might have been spectacular. But since it was 2 decades ago, it's hard to remember. Were they red? Were they pink? Were they ugly? Were they pretty? So
okay.
But I'm sure they were spectacular because I remember seeing them and they were so different. And you look at them and you're like, wow, that's crazy. But everybody wanted a black and white one.
Okay. So do these red animals originate from a specific location, or is it just kind of a phenotype that floats around the range up there?
It's a Jersey thing, kind of like pork roll. I've heard rumors that like Monmouth County has the red ones, but then I've heard Burlington County has the red ones.
Yeah.
So, but I've seen pictures where you can find beautiful red northern pines in Burlington County, along with black and white ones. Like it's almost like they exist together, and they could probably have came from the same female, laid a clutch of eggs, and 4 of them were redder. The rest were black and white.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, there's variations as you go down the coast. There's North Carolina northern pines. There are Georgia northern pines, which are kind of in between. There's some black and white and some look yellow, like the Kentucky pines. But the most ones that I've seen with the red are specific New Jersey pine barren locale. But exactly what county, I think it's just dispersed. You can find them throughout New Jersey. Okay.
Interesting. Have you ever taken one of your red animals back to a black and white to see what happens?
No, I haven't. Only because I have such a large group of like pure black and white ones and some that have a little bit of a reduced pattern and the reds. And since the reds are so popular, I would hate to just create like a generic looking group of eggs or group of babies that aren't going to be as eye-catching as a bright red one or a nice black and white.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what I figured, but just figured I'd ask just in case. Yeah, it's like, okay, why? Kind of like, you kind of compare it back to kind of like the carpet pythons a little bit. It's like, all right, you have these really nice diamonds or really nice coastals or whatever. It's like, all right, do you want to keep them what they are, or do you want to risk like muddying them up and making really dull babies just for the sake of trying something new?
If I was more scientifically minded, it would be neat to do a red to a black and white, but I'd have to keep all the babies to raise up to see what percentage would have more red, what percentage would look like the black and whites. I just don't have the time or the space to do a science project like that, but I would love to have other people try that and let me know what they come up with.
Absolutely. Another one that I want to ask about are the pied black pines. I feel like I've only really seen you post them, and maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places, but what's the history behind that mutation within the black pine population?
Hang on a second. It's funny.
All right.
I just happen to have the box right in front of me.
Hey.
Let's see.
Wow.
There's a little white head.
Oh my gosh. Those are so beautiful.
And they have white bellies.
Wow.
These originated, I have somewhere in my files, I know the complete story, and it was written out there's a Pituophis enthusiast Facebook page. And if you type in pied black pine, you can find the original post. They came from somebody, either he was from New York or New Jersey. Okay. Bred 2 Mobile County black pines, had no previous knowledge that these had any kind of special genetics. And the first clutch that he had, a couple of them had white heads.
Wow.
So it came from there, but it wasn't any kind of a hybrid. There's no, this was
Yeah.
back in the 90s, before there were like white-sided anything else. So these are technically like a white side, not a true pied,
Yeah.
but they kind of like the pied corns. They call them the pied-sided corns. These just
Yeah.
got named pied black pines, but it's actually just a white side would be the true genetic term for it.
Sure.
But they were really popular back in the 90s also, and then they disappeared. Only a few people around like New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania still had any. And now they've been making a comeback. So you'll see them posted. There's a few people that have gotten babies from me and from other breeders locally, and now they're 6 years old and they're breeding them their own, So there's a new crop of pied black pines coming onto the market. From ones that have been sold. These, for whatever reason, they grow slower. They're not like a typical black pine that can be 7 feet in a couple of years. These take 6-7 years to get to be adults.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That kind of lends well to my next question. I guess with the subject of black pines, but I guess you could probably also apply this to Louisiana, Kentucky, whatever. How much of a concern is inbreeding with these localities and species that, are, well, I think at this point they're probably all protected, but that have, especially like the ESA protected species that have limited gene pools to begin with. What are your thoughts on that as far as potential negative effects of inbreeding?
As far as, well, we'll do Louisiana second, because they're a snake in their own little subcategory. But like the black pines, they were readily available all through the 90s, the 2000s, until they became protected. There's vast amount of different genetics for them.
Okay.
I don't think people up until lately, they're not really considering what like the indigo people are doing with, DNA testing the shed skins and having a network where all right, this guy has a good compatible mate for my animals. Let's get them together. I think that's only just beginning with the pine snakes. But the black pines, there's still a wide gene pool out there. Kentucky pines, they are not, they're a locality. It's not a separate species. So they're basically just still a northern pine.
Yeah.
But Phil Peake and Will Bird they found a shed skin at one point, and like we know there's pine snakes still in Kentucky. So they went on this search to find the Kentucky pine. Those are critically subjected to inbreeding because there was only like a group of 4 of the original adults. But it would be kind of like a crime to humanity to start crossing them with a Jersey pine.
Oh yeah, never. That would be awful.
It's funny. They do the Kentucky pines are very similar to what's right across the border in Tennessee and Georgia. There's yellow and black pines from those localities.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody in the future is going to do any DNA testing and decide whether they can put Kentucky with Tennessee to try to strengthen the gene pool. But for right now, I think there's only a few breeders working with them. But, it's a trickle-down effect. The genetic bottlenecking will take place if, a breeder sells a male and a female to Joe Schmo. He's going to breed that male and a female and sell babies that are then related. And, it just trickles down the line that they're all going to be inbred, and they probably will start showing genetic problems.
Yeah. Has that been seen within other pits? I feel like I've heard that within like some of the bull snake morphs that they've been inbred to the point of like, shrinking them down, like the adult size. Is that happening?
I haven't noticed that with pines other than the strictest, brightest black and white pines seem to, like the high white ones, seem to grow a lot slower, and they don't get, I've bought snakes where from the same breeder, I got black and whites and outcrossed high black and whites. And the outcrossed ones grew twice as fast and got to be 7 feet. The other ones maxed out at like 4.5 feet.
Really?
So it's happening, but it's like you said, with genetic lines, or you're breeding for a specific trait. And a lot of the pine snake people aren't really into that. A nice northern pine doesn't have to be black and white. It can be, you know, a little dirty, a little muddy, and it's still a spectacular animal. So if we don't go down the same line as the bull snake people trying to get all these crazy colors, they should remain strong and healthy for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. So those ones that were maxing out in like that 4 foot range, were they just kind of like, did they look like compressed pine snakes, or were they just overall smaller head, smaller features?
Yeah, they weren't compressed. They just did not grow. Like if you fed 2 snakes the same meals for 3 years, the outcrossed ones doubled in size. They were just stunted and didn't grow. Even though they were eating every week and shedding, they just didn't they didn't have the genetics for growth, would be my only guess. But they were beautiful, but at what cost?
Yeah, absolutely. So then with everything you're working with, have you made like an effort to, you know, have like distinctive lineages that you're able to trace that are unrelated in order to kind of maintain the health of these animals for the long run?
With my black pines, I actually acquired a pair that was legally wild caught.
Oh, wow.
Back in the late 80s. The male lived to be around 35 years old. The female lived into her 40s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she died a few years ago. I think she was 41 or 42 years old. And
That's
people
amazing.
constantly telling me, like, you're lying about this. There's no way. But these were pure Mobile County pines that were documented, where they were captured, who caught them. I have all the paperwork and all and those pines were bred, and the babies are out there. But now that the original founders are gone, it's not as exciting, so to speak. It's, you know, I have some of their offspring to keep the line going, but nothing's as exciting as breeding, you know, a wild caught line and producing your own line of snakes.
Sure.
And that leads you into the Louisianas. The Louisianas are so subject to scrutiny that there's only a few people that I would trust that say, I can document these animals. I have the paper trail of where they came from. Because back in the old days, it was a popular thing, because a baby bull snake back in the 90s was $25.
Yeah.
A Louisiana pine was $500 for a pair. So people would cross bull snakes with Louisiana pines. A Louisiana pine will lay 4 or 5, maybe 6 eggs, and they're huge. Yeah. They're like the biggest eggs you've ever seen come out of a pine snake. A bull snake lays a dozen little round eggs.
Right.
So they could create like a fake Louisiana pine and not produce 4 or 5. They're producing 12 or 15. And so in the world, there's been like hybridized Louisiana pines, and that's why people are all like, yeah, none of these are pure, they're all fake. There are breeders. There's a guy named Michael Kuhn. Shout out to Michael Kuhn.
Yeah,
he has pure Louisiana lines. He only breeds, I think, black pines and Louisiana pines. And he would be, if I was to shout out to somebody else, he'd be the go-to guy.
Okay.
Who's done the research, the background, and he's dedicated to just those species.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of his stuff on Facebook, and it's really admirable. I love seeing the pictures of him like with the babies on the scale right out of the egg, and they're like 130 grams or something. I'm like, that's a collusion? Like,
not that much, but yeah.
Or like I think it was like 100 grams. I could be wrong, but you know, a monster baby pine snake. That is so cool.
It is. It's one of. I have a picture in my phone of me holding a hatching Florida pine. It's coming out of the egg, and it's able to eat a small adult mouse the day it was hatched.
Wow.
Where, you know, you hatch a king snake or, you know, something like that, and it's this little thing, and you got to find the tiny little pinkies to feed it.
Yeah.
That's another thing about pine snakes that's so cool. They only lay a few eggs, but they're massive. Like when you see them lined up in the female, you're like, how did she fit 7 or 8 of those giant eggs are the size of a light bulb coming out of her? So it just, you got to respect the snake. You feel like, you know, it's just something special all the way down the line between the scalation, the characteristics, the point on their nose. They got a little spike on their tail.
Yeah.
There's so many things about pine snakes that are just special and different and cool.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Got to give them the love.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of why I wanted to have you on the show. Is I agree with everything you say about these pine snakes. I mean, they're up there for me with my favorite colubrids I've ever worked with, and I don't even have any really big ones yet. My biggest one is probably like 5 feet, if that. Like a, you know, small 5 feet. She's what, probably 15 months old now and about 5 feet.
Wow.
So
you're doing good. That's going to be a monster then.
Yeah, I sure hope so. Yeah, she's a really crisp black and white Ocean County animal, and I'm hoping she ends up being one of those 7-footers that that you love to see. I want to ask you some questions about the Florida pines as well. So they're one that I don't keep yet, and frankly don't know that much about. The one thing that I always get confused by while looking at Florida pines is the color variety within some of the mutations, particularly like the leucistics, how you have the whites, the pinks, and the yellow leucistics. What's the distinction there between the different colorations within some of these mutations?
The funny thing is everybody for years, I want the whitest ones, blue eyes, white body.
Yeah.
And my stock, there was a guy, Mike Medic, it was called Isis Reptiles. His wife's name is Isis. And he was breeding these back before anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I got my original stock from him.
Okay.
They were pink, but you can breed these together, and 2 pink ones could produce yellow babies, white babies, or pink babies.
Okay.
You breed the whitest ones together, they could have pink babies, white babies, yellow babies.
Huh. Okay.
I think within the snake, the genetics are so diverse and they've been bred like that. It would take a while to isolate 2 adults that would only produce one color.
Got it.
I'm sure it could be done.
Sure.
I'm sure back in the day, people had pairs that produced very white babies. But a lot of these, I've had babies that were snow white, and I put them in their little box, and I write whitest white leucistic. A year later, it starts getting pink on its head. But for 12 months, it was snow white. And I was convinced I finally got it. I know which 2 produced the whitest ones. And then at 2 years old, it's pink with silver stripes down its body. They change over time. It's like a lot of people say that the Florida pines go through an ugly duckling stage where they're kind of drab and you don't really know what they're going to look like. Yeah. After the first year to 18 months, that's when their color starts popping out, and you can say, wow, look at this thing now. It started out drab, and now it's this spectacular snake.
Interesting. I didn't know that about them. Huh. Yeah, they seem different in a really cool way from the northern pines in a lot of different aspects. Are your adults similar, body composition wise?
Yeah, they say that I've seen big ones of both northern and Florida. They can both get huge. I think all in all, they're very similar, but just scalation differences color differences,
right.
Slight structure differences. But they're basically the same Melanoleucus,
Yeah.
pine snake.
Okay. Very cool. So then Is it the same when it comes to some of the like the the normal Southerns where you get ones that are more pink, more gray, more brown, kind of just it is what it is, variation within the species?
It's probably locale.
Okay.
Pine snakes in the wild are supposed to blend in with their surroundings.
Right.
Sand, pine needles. So a lot of them in the wild are drab.
Yeah.
Only, through selective breeding have these cool colors popped out. But in the wild, you can find patternless as well as patterned from the same
Okay.
clutch. It's not like a locale that, these are opaque. Depending on how they're bred, you can have patternless and patterned offspring from the same clutch.
Okay.
And it's like a dominant gene. If you breed the patternless, it comes out in the first breeding.
Okay. Interesting. Very cool. So what are some of your long-term aspirations with Florida pines from like a line breeding standpoint or whatever, however you want to characterize it?
At this point, I'm breeding just basically what I like. The
Yeah.
only long-term project I truly have is with the pieds, only because I've been trying to do like only het-to-het breedings instead of pied-to-het. I'm trying to strengthen the line. I've outcrossed them like 15 years ago. I did some outcrossing to just normal black pines to create healthier hets because I want to see a 7-foot pied black pine. But as far as the Floridas, I breed, the albinos are beautiful. The leucistics are beautiful. I have hypos that are really cool, but I don't really have, it's just from year to year, I decide, okay, let's put this male and female together.
Sure.
But I don't really have a long-term project with them.
Okay.
The only project I have is really with the Mobile County, the pure line of pines, the black pines, and the pieds. And that's going to take me into my golden years.
Very cool. So what about those Mobile County animals kind of sets them apart from your standard run-of-the-mill black pine?
Just the name. It's a pure locality animal. And from what I've heard, some black pines, I've talked to people that do research on these in the wild. They can live their entire life in a spot the size of a football field. They don't roam around like indigos do. They don't travel distances. They stay and confined by rivers. And there might be a river here and a river here, and these black pines stay within the boundaries. So the Mobile County just happened to be where mine came from. If they came from a different county, that's what I would call them. But there's structurally, there's no difference. Color-wise, it's like they can be jet black or they can have some chocolate brown. Some have pattern, some don't have pattern. It's all just a random throw of what genetics are popping out from those eggs.
Okay, so it's not like the Mobile animals are a deeper black or a little bit bigger. Those just happen to be the stock that you acquired, and that's what you're working with.
Exactly. And even when you breed the blackest 2 black pines you can find, some babies hatch out very, very black, and some will still have pattern. But the pattern fades, and they all mature into beautiful black animals. They're spectacular. It's to see a giant black pine the size of a soda can.
Yeah,
that's neat.
I have some 2-year-olds, and I absolutely love them. They're so perfect to me. I'm like, for anyone who wants a Mexican black king snake, I feel like the only way you'd want that is if you don't know a black pine snake exists.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Well, the whole thing about the pine snake was, if you're looking for the perfect snake, like what makes the perfect snake? It has to be more interactive than a ball python.
Yes.
It has to be bigger than a Western hognose. It can't be as big as a retic or a, Burmese.
Yeah.
So there's a few snakes that fit in there. What doesn't poop all over the cage like a false water cobra? What doesn't try to jump out and bite you? That's where they fit they check every box. Where the right size, there's a variety of colors, they feel good, they handle very well, they're not skitzing out and flipping out all over the place. I'll take one out and just sit and hold it take a break from cleaning cages and just I'm still marveling after 20 years of doing this. I take them out and just look at the scalation on their head and that little nose and everything about them. They still hold that fascination for me. And I don't know any other snake that's hit that home run with me than the pine snakes.
Yeah, I agree with all of that.
Everybody out there should, when they're at the snake show, put the ball python cup down and walk away from the hognose table and find that one guy in the corner that has a couple of pine snakes.
Yeah.
Spend some time talking to him.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't believe how many times I'm in a giant reptile show with 100 vendors, and people will come up and say, "You have the coolest stuff at this show. This is the neatest looking stuff. I have a sign on my table that says pine snakes sold here." And people come up and like, "What is a pine snake? I've never even heard of a pine snake."
Yeah.
I should have a pre-recorded little thing like, "Here, listen to my infomercial."
Just take like the last 2 minutes of this podcast. That's all you need. That was the pitch right there.
But they literally check every box. They don't attack you. They don't bite you. They don't musk on you. They grow to a really cool size. It's like, you're holding a snake, not like, something little and cute.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And they're intelligent. They're interactive. They have that look in their eye. Like they know what they're doing. And there's a lot of snakes that just, you crack that lid and all they're doing is coming up to get that mouse. There's no other interaction. Absolutely.
I mean, I've been very fortunate to interact with hundreds of different reptile species, and to me, I think you could make a good argument that, Pituovas as a whole, but, if we're sticking to pine snakes, you could make an argument that they're the best pet snake. I think personally, they solve, and like you've been saying, they solve issues that exist with the other beginner snakes of, like with ball pythons. Okay, the main detractors are they do nothing for the most part, and especially if you feed them the way that most people feed their ball pythons, and they will go on these hunger strikes, which don't bode well for a normal pet.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Like you said, you had a Florida pine hatch out in your hand that could eat an adult mouse right away. Like, I've produced Jani for the most part for pits. I don't think I've ever had a Jani refuse a meal at any point in time. Put a frozen thawed fuzzy right in there, and that's like a small pit baby.
Right.
So, that, and then just the interaction that, like you were describing, the beauty within them. You don't need 6 genes stacked on top of one another to make them look absolutely incredible. They're like, I keep spilotes as well within colubrids, but they're not a beginner colubrid. They take a little bit of, you need to know how to work a snake hook, at least until that thing's out of the enclosure. They're very fast. They're amazing. I love them. But to me, I'm like, I don't keep a lot of stuff that I feel like I could hand a kid. I feel like I could hand a kid a baby bull snake or pine snake or something like that.
Absolutely.
And they're going to be pretty good with that animal.
Yeah. That's my joke in the room here is that's why I've got these king rats, because I need something a little more challenging. I need something that I can whip out my snake hook and chase, and it gets underneath something and I'm pulling on it. The pines, they just don't do that. So I needed a little bit of excitement in my life. So I have king rats now, and what a pain in the neck they are, but they provide, they click up something that they provide that stimuli for me that I have something I have to actually work with.
Sure. Yeah. They're beautiful though. I'm a big fan of king rat snakes, especially all the different localities and whatnot. They're amazing snakes for sure. Definitely a fan. So as we kind of are nearing the end here, I know you got a very busy day ahead of you. I want to talk about something that we kind of touched on before we went live is, some of your times herping for pine snakes. As far as North American species go, that's probably like number one on my list at this point is something I want to see in the wild, or just honestly a pine snake, northern, southern, wherever, from just about anywhere. I'd be thrilled. Tell me a little bit about the time you spent in the Pine Barrens, New Jersey.
It started when I was younger. I had a friend that worked at the aquarium with me named Pete, and we would just go to the Pine Barrens, just spend the entire day there. And it wasn't really about finding snakes. It was also about, finding a junk car that somebody lit on fire, or finding, whatever is in the Pine Barrens. It was just an amazing environment. And a lot of times, like I went for years and never saw a pine snake.
Yeah.
We would find black rats, box turtles, the local fauna, but even like a chain king are in the Pine Barrens. Never found one. Jersey corn snake, I only found one. It took me years until I actually found a northern pine. And it was just like, wow, look at this. You flip something and there's a 5-foot black and white snake. And you're just like, oh my God, finally. It's like the lifer. Everybody calls it the lifer. I do more herping in Pennsylvania because that's where I'm from. And no pine snakes here, but it's still just a thrill finding something that you set out on the day to go find and look for.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So what was the situation in which you found that northern pine?
We were just driving around in a state forest, and there's debris everywhere. People used to, back in the 80s and 90s, just dump their trash everywhere. And the trash would attract rodents. So you would go and find like a pile of roofing tin or shingles or a piece of plywood. And I remember we saw a bunch of plywood that somebody dumped. And as we were flipping the plywood over, under one layer, there was it was like an adult male, black and white, just like, wow, look at this. And that was the first one I saw in the wild.
Wow.
And since then, I've only seen a handful, but there are friends of mine that know, like they'll say they're very easy to find if you know where to look. But if you don't know where to look, you could go years without ever seeing one.
Sure. Do you think that comes down to they just have a very niche habitat that they prefer, or are they really that uncommon and like their population in decline?
No, there's huge population of them in the Pine Barrens, but they're subterranean. They will go into an animal burrow. They will dig in the sand with their nose, their own burrow. So a lot of times they're underground. And that's what they say about the Louisiana pines. They spend 90% of their life in a pocket gopher burrow, and you'll never find them.
Interesting.
So it's not that they're super hard to find. Oh, they're hard to find, but they're there. They're just hiding, like Bigfoot. They're hiding in plain sight.
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, I could imagine, like hearing that story, or hearing Phil Peak talk about his experience, like just how frustrating that would probably be for me, at least. I don't know if I have that kind of patience to look for years for one snake, like thinking you're doing everything right, and just every board you flip, every nook or cranny you look in, there's just no snake there. It would drive me crazy.
We would find snakes, though. We would find racers.
Yeah,
we found coastal plains milks. We found hundreds of racers. But, the ghost of the forest was the pine snake. Yeah,
absolutely. That's super cool. I definitely I want to make it out there one day, just to even see the habitat. I like to understand where the animals come from that I keep. The only time I've been able to do that is out here in the Southwest with like the rock rattlesnakes and stuff like that, being in habitat for them. I feel like it just gives you a much better understanding, but also appreciation of the animals that you get to interact with in your home when you're in their habitat, and just really understanding where they come from, the conditions that they're experiencing. And then you kind of look at the animals you keep, you're like, wow, I really pamper you. You can deal with a whole heck of a lot more than I make you deal with. So I think it's all really amazing. Well, Jay, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I know you got to get going. One last kind of wrap up question I got to hit you with before we go. Of all of the Pituophis, if you had to pick one favorite, and you can't say just northern pine, you got to go like locale specific on this one, what would be one or maybe two that you're like, all right, these are my absolute favorite?
I'd hate to pick one because I do it all the time. I love my Kentuckys because they're bright yellow and they're rare, and I know everything about them from the day that Phil and Will found them. But I would say a black pine.
Okay.
A big, beautiful black pine, nothing beats it.
Very cool.
Except for maybe a really nice northern, or one of my southerns.
To all of them. Absolutely. That's kind of the answer I was expecting. Well, Jay, for anyone who wants to keep up with what you're doing, follow you on social media, where can you be found?
Facebook under J. Jacoby Serpent Propagation. Also on Instagram. I usually just post photos. There's not really a lot of conversation on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'm at the 2 local to Philadelphia reptile shows every other month. Hamburg, which is now called Morgantown, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And Oaks, which is right outside of Philadelphia. So
Okay.
I have permanent table at both of those shows. So if anybody's in the area, wants to see me, meet me, talk to me, see my animals, I'm at those shows every month. Each one rotates, 1 month. So every month I'm at a show.
Okay. And you're on Morph Market as well, right?
I am on Morph Market. I currently only have 10 snakes on there. I keep saying I got to put more stuff on there, but today was the day, but I'm talking to you instead.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. So then for anybody who is looking for your availability and can't make it to a show, is Morph Market the best place, or should they just shoot you a message? What's the best way to get a hold of you for acquiring animals?
Hit me up on Facebook.
Cool.
That's
Absolutely.
the best way. Message me, tell me what you saw or you're looking for, and I'll spend the time talking to you and answering any questions you have.
Awesome. Well, Jay, once again, thank you so much for talking with me this morning. I really, really appreciate it. This is a conversation I've been wanting to have for quite a while.
I love it. Steve, thank you so much. I want you to go home and feed those black pines. I want to see them huge.
Absolutely. I will. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for checking out the episode. Thank you very much. And I'll catch you all back here next time for the next show.